at what point, you said you were 20, so around 21, you jumped on.
Yeah.
Before that. When did you decide, like, nah, no bodybuilding? Was it straight after that comp?
Sort of. So after that comp, I got a new coach, and he was very much of the case, like, if you want to get big, you got to lift big. And I was like, sweet, love the idea of that. So we did a few strength blocks back to back, and just kept putting on more weight on the bar. I got bigger, I got stronger, and I was like, okay, this is kind of fun. And it wasn't until I pulled my first 300 kilo deadlift, and it was just a what if, whatever, and god awful as well, hitched straps, all the rest. And then some bloke came up to me and was like, you should get into powerlifting. And I'm like, what's that? And then he's like, oh, it's this. And I looked it up a bit more. I was like, oh, yeah, it seems kind of cool. I think I'd do it right. And then I think it was 4 weeks from at some novice comp. He's like, you should just jump in. I'm like, well, all right, why not? I've got nothing else to do. And the owner of the gym at the time was like, yeah, we'll pay for it and all that. So, yeah, went into it. And that was the Mortal Kombat novice comp held in the Midland Power Fitness, I think.
Okay, yeah.
In 2017. And from there, I won that one with a 795 total, weighing 139, I think. So it was my first and only comp at under 140. And yeah, won that, and then it kind of took off from there.
And at this point, still just test?
No, I dived into like other compounds like DECA, EQ, Tren, all that sort of stuff. That was for the bodybuilding, and it kind of just carried over into the powerlifting.
So what, obviously you were advised to bring those things in.
Yeah.
What kind of experiences did you have with the heavier stuff? Obviously you'd only ran test and you were pretty big naturally anyway.
Well, I had done a few cycles in between the bodybuilding comp and the first powerlifting comp. There was about 18 months in between that, so I'd done 2 or 3 cycles in between. And it was always a very low, moderate sort of dose, or low dose compared to what guys do nowadays. But personally, I've never really had any major side effects from those sorts of compounds, like the typical, roid rage or whatnot, or this and that and the other. And I think I got pretty lucky in that regard, that I never really had any major issues with it.
How do you feel on it? Like some people, I speak to people who are like, I'm actually not a huge fan of like when I'm close to comp and I've got a lot of stuff in.
Well, I think regardless of what you're taking, coming up to a comp, when you're peaking, you feel like shit anyway, because you're moving huge weights. CNS is fried. So I really don't think it really matters all that much in that aspect. But like then again, if you're not sleeping right and not eating right, not hydrated, they'll play a pretty big factor in it as well.
Yeah, and then obviously if anything can happen, right? So it was big dogs that you had the issues.
Yeah, big dogs 4. But that's unrelated to any gear use. That was all purely just bad luck with getting a bug. Yeah. Because obviously, my partner at the time and my son had got sick as well.
Okay. And so, but that was after the big, I guess it was the peak of what you've done so far. I'm sure there's more to come.
Hopefully.
But yeah, you were 23 when because the first time I ever remember watching it, it was, what's the thing on YouTube? You would have seen it. Strength Wars or something? Strength Central.
Oh, yeah.
They do, remember they used to do all the videos, and they do one where they've combined your stuff from, was it Pro Raw?
Yeah, Pro Raw 11 was where I did my best lifts.
Yeah, 900 and 1,000. Yeah. So you were 23 then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a month before my 24th birthday, so just snuck in for the junior total.
And so what, around that time, like you said, people are going to assume, oh, you're on more.
Yeah.
I would,
Yeah, it's fair to assume that, like, because you're lifting these massive weights or being this big, of course, you're going to assume, oh, this guy must be on heaps of gear. It's like, no, I was definitely on a good cycle, but I was still under 2 grams a week.
Altogether?
Altogether, including orals.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've known of guys cruising on less.
So have I, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And they look like shit too.
Yeah. There is a point of diminishing return, but people still try to find that point.
Well, not everyone can progressively overload like you can. Obviously, you doesn't sound like you've had too much of a down point, obviously, until all the stuff that happened recently.
Yeah.
But it sounds like from the age of when you started training, or even 18 upwards, you probably just kept getting stronger in every movement,
well,
right?
when I took strength training seriously, between my first 300 kilo deadlift and 400 kilo deadlift was a year. And to go from my first, so my best score at Pro Raw was 355, and then a year later was 455. So to add that amount of weight in a year, just by taking shit seriously. And there was no real difference in the drugs I was taking.
How much heavier were you?
7 kilos or 8 kilos body weight.
Yeah, wow. And so squatting specifically, you're squatting. This is where we've seen a couple issues over the last maybe 2 or 3 years. Your last comp was breakthrough, is that right?
Yeah.
And you had a mishap in prep before that.
Yeah, 3 weeks prior to that comp, I tore my quad up by the hip. It was nasty. Did not feel good at all.
No, it doesn't sound like it.
No, I couldn't walk for about 4 or 5 days after that, and don't know how I was able to even compete.
Yeah, well, you still pulled. I can't remember what you squatted. I remember you still pulled 400.
I opened my squats with 370 just because I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get up with this weight, so I'll be conservative. My coach Tom said to do 400 because everything was moving really well, but I was like, I'd rather not risk it. So I opened with 370, flew up, tore it again on the bottom, but not enough to go fuck, but enough to not do a second attempt.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, still pulled 400 in that comp as well.
What did you bench?
232.5, and then I went for a 242.5 to get a PB on my third, and then my pec went.
Yeah, because best numbers are 455, 240, and 410.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that obviously being the comp where you're obviously coming back expecting to do more, you're training now are you still doing Zero Pro?
No. So I'm not doing any comps until next year.
Okay, which is which one?
Likely Pro Raw or something mid-year. Not 100% sure because at the moment I've got a little niggle in my back which I've had since Big Dogs 4 when I dumped 400. Good times that was. But I've had a niggle since then in my back, and it's kind of just I was able to push through it for breakthrough, and it's just kept coming back. So at the moment I'm rehabbing for the next 4 to 6 months before I make a call on a comp.
Okay. And was there at any point where you were doing the is it Night at Mulder Street?
Yeah, that was the main one that I wanted to do because there's some good prize money up for grabs there. And I think a few bigger guys were meant to do it. Like I think Dan Bell was meant to come out for that one.
Same problem. I think he's doing rehab as well.
Yeah, he basically tore his glute off or something like that at his last comp.
That's not nice.
No.
Yeah. Okay. This is the thing, right? That keeps everyone from doing it, right? Because everyone's working hard and training and everything. It's always like usually an injury. Oh my God, Jesus! Usually an injury. I can't even say it right now.
Injury?
I'm having a seizure currently. You know what I'm going to say, so just pretend I've said it. That seems to be a big problem with a lot of the bigger guys, and you've obviously had the similar issues. At what point do you think that we're pushing the limits beyond what human beings can really take?
Well, it's really hard to say of how far it can be taken. I mean, like everything can feel really good, and out of nowhere, it can just happen. So unless you're like recording every single thing you do every single day to track exactly what's going on, there's no real way to say like, okay, cool. If I keep doing this, then this is going to happen. All you can really do is just keep training and stay as perfect as you can be, or perfect as you can be in your training and everything else. Like everything has to go hand in hand. You know, your training, your hydration, your sleep. They're all equally as important as what you do in everyday life.
Has your training always been? Because I'm just going to flat out say that like I hear lots of things. So I've heard that at one point you used to not do a lot of accessories.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah. So like even to the point where I've heard that you possibly would walk into the gym and do a single on squats or something and then pretty much call it.
Yeah. But that's usually 6 weeks out sort of deal. And when you're squatting north of 450 in comp, you know, your lead ups to that are going to be, you know, from 6 weeks out, 400, 410, 420, 430 and so on. So it's a lot of weight.
So you stand by that method?
I don't like it. I'd rather have the idea of like, cool, I can hit this and then go do accessories. But I was a lazy lifter, and I think I got lucky.
Yeah. So would you do things like that now? Or
it's more of a play it by how you feel type deal. So if you've hit your top weight, hit your top sets, felt good, and you've got time, do your accessories. You know, you shouldn't really neglect them. But at the same time, if you're feeling real shit, it's taking you 2 hours to get to that top set, and you just like absolutely run down, then just bail. Because you're not going to get any stronger by doing your accessories 4 weeks out from a comp. You can all you're really doing in a peak is trying to present the strongest version of yourself, and that's by peaking those weights and priming your body and priming your CNS to hit them at a specific time. Whereas if you're just like, oh, I have to go hard all the time, that's where injuries come from.